I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah. That is what I heard them say way back in the day. I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah. But it seems like since that day, yeah, we have sorely changed. I'll be buried in my grave before I become a slave, yeah, yeah. That is what I heard them say, yeah. Way back in the day. I'll be buried in my grave, yeah, before I become a slave, yeah, yeah. But it seems like since that day, yeah, we have sorely changed. Whoa. Hey, hey. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 oh.
And now, live from beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, you're watching My Fellow Americans with your host, Spike Cohen.
Yes! Yes, it's me. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you. Keep clapping. Clap for the miracle. Clap for the ponies. Clap for this campaign. How would we know that you wanted ponies if you didn't keep clapping? Welcome to My Fellow Americans. I am literally Spike Cohen. Guys, I am so happy to have you on this episode for this very special mortgage interest deduction jam edition of My Fellow Americans. In a few moments, we will have two men come on and fight in a no-holds-barred, to-the-death, cage match, Oxford-style debate that no one is prepared for, least of all myself. This is a Muddied Waters Media production. As always, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Anchor, Twitter, Periscope, iTunes, Google Play, Float. Check us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, everywhere. Anywhere that you could think of someone being on the internet, check us out there because we are there. When this program is over, find us on all of these platforms. Like us on all of them. Follow us on all of them. 5-star us or 10-star us on all of them. And hit that bell if applicable. I think only on YouTube. And be sure to share this video right now. The last thing that any of us wants is for your closest loved ones to miss out on an hour-long Libertarian podcast on a Wednesday night. Be sure to give the gift of Spike Cohen today. Kids love it. This program, of course, is brought to you by the Libertarian Dad Bod Calendar, featuring sexy Libertarian men like this man right here, Spike Cohen, Mr. April, the sweet summer boy, featuring many of your other of your favorite sexy Libertarian men. Be sure to get this calendar today. It's only $12 on libertariandadbod.com. You, of course, want to be able to hang this from your fridge or wherever you would hang sexy Libertarian men from in your home. LibertarianDadBod.com. This episode is also brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing Waffle House related caucus in the Libertarian Party. Check us out. We are growing each and every day. This episode, of course, is also brought to you by the Vermin Spike 2020 campaign. We are the current frontrunners for the Libertarian Party nomination because, of course, we are. And with your support, together, we will ride our ponies into a zombie-powered future with cheesy bread and badgers for all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And, of course, The intro and outro music to this and every episode of My Fellow Americans comes from the amazing and talented Mr. Joe Davi. That is Jodavi. Check him out on Facebook, SoundCloud. Go to joedavimusic.bandcamp.com. Buy his entire discography. It's like $25. You'll love it. Thank you, Mr. Joe Davi. I'd like to thank Kroger for this delicious, purified drinking water that I drink on this and every episode of My Fellow Americans. Blue Vinaka. You can taste the purity in that. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Shout out to Taylor and Turks' mom and them as always, guys. This, of course, is a special episode. Tonight is a very special night. And by that, I mean that we're about to have bloodshed on the very streets that our children play on. Two libertarian men are about to battle it out in a brutal war of attrition that threatens to rend asunder everything we hold dear, all to answer once and for all the question that keeps us awake at night. Are mortgage interest deductions a good thing or a bad thing? Who's going to win? Well, that's up to you to decide. At the end of this debate, comment with the name of who you thought won, and we will tally that and release the results tomorrow night. So then, let's get started right now. Nope. There we go. Our first debater is a freedom fighter based out of Kentucky who was involved with the election of Savannah Maddox and the passage of constitutional carry. In his spare time, he enjoys walks on the beach and horse racing. He is TJ Roberts. Our second debater is a regular on My Fellow Americans. He is the creator and administrator of Libertarian memes for neoliberal teens. Despite our great working relationship, he refused to write a bio for me to make this show prep just slightly easier, and so here I am now reading what I wrote about him. He is, of course, Sam Coppinger, and finally, to bear witness to this tragic, senseless violence, is a cartoonishly adorable home for sale. Will someone buy me? I sure hope so. We will be finding out tonight. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for having me on, bud.
I'm looking forward to it. So before we get this started, what have you guys been up to? TJ, what's going on with you?
Oh, not much right now. Just doing a couple things that aren't exactly ready for public release quite yet, but otherwise just here to defend keeping.
Okay, cool. And Sam, what's how have you been doing?
I just lost audio for TJ, so you should know that first. But other than that, I'm doing swell. I've just introduced a new era in the evolution of the page, the Libertarian memes for neoliberal teens, that has more diverse content than just the memes themselves. It has sharing articles and other opinions and things like that. And also, more importantly, I've just launched the official merch store, which does not just mean black t-shirts with neoliberal teens written on them in black text. It's designs that I like, I've spent a lot of time on, and for people of neoliberal or libertarian interests, I think they'll be appealing. It's on Redbubble, and there are currently 3 designs with more on the way, and they can be gotten on stickers or shirts or lots of other products.
Very good. And that's on your Facebook page?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Housey, what have you been up to? Well, I just been waiting for someone to buy me, and I sure hope that happens soon. That is the last time I will be doing that, by the way. Thank you. Good. Well, guys, TJ, I just want to check your audio real quick because we did lose you for a second. Oh, good. All right, so we will try to figure that out. And in that, I mean that TJ is not on this call. All right, let me try reaching out to him. And in the meantime, I will get started. Actually, that's probably not fair because he was not in the call. Here we go. So we're going to call TJ Roberts. So you were saying, Sam, so that the link to that is on your page. So if people want to buy neoliberal merch, they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, it's pinned to the top of the post. Or the top of the page. It should be the first post that you see if you navigate to the page.
Okay, good. Well, that is good. Well, folks, we're having a bit of an issue in that TJ's computer has bricked.
Suppose this means I win by default then.
Well, we're about to find out. I may have to tell the opposite side of that. But hold on. We will see. We may just give your side of this, and then redo this for a future.
You could play devil's advocate.
Yeah, his computer's bricked up and frozen. So, Sam, you ignorant slut. No, okay, so, all right, well, here's how we were going to do this, and we'll have to figure out how this was going to work. Here was the rules that I was going to set forth, and what I may do is just let you give your side and do devil's advocate. I think that might work, but, so here's how we're going to do it now. With our new and improved modified rules to the mortgage interest deduction jam that I'm coming up with as I read how we were originally going to do it. First, each of you are going to be given 4 minutes to give an opening statement. That means that you, Sam, will be giving an opening statement. Next, I'm going to ask you, I was going to ask 2 questions. It's kind of pointless now. I'm going to ask 1 question. You will each be given, Sam, will be given 3 minutes to answer. And if you mention my name, I will have a minute to respond. Actually, I'm going to talk whenever I want to. It doesn't really matter. After that, you will be given a chance to ask me a question. This really makes no sense in this context. Then I'm going to present some questions from followers and commenters, and you will have up to 3 minutes to answer. I'm not really timing this at this point. You can answer as much as you want. And for those of you watching, feel free to leave your questions, and I will try to get to as many of them as possible. And then each of each of Sam, will be given 3 minutes to give your closing remarks, and then our lovely, beautiful, and brilliant viewing audience, who I can totally tell have been working out, will comment whether you have won or Housey has won. So it's either you or Housey. Housey is Noda. I would have been keeping time by using our Muddy Waters Media brand egg timer, but Matt Hicks bought it from me. Eggy, we love you, and we miss you. Please come home. In the meantime, I will be using a digital timer. Gentlemen, this is a libertarian debate, and as such, we will not tolerate any violations of the non-aggression principle. Any such violations will be met with whatever level of defensive violence is necessary, up to and including nuclear weapons. As always, if you choose to strip naked during this debate, I will not be sharing any of the ad revenue for you. Sam, you're going to be arguing in favor of this statement. The mortgage interest deduction is an act of social engineering and distortive economic intervention by government. Let me get my timer out. Here we go. Let me see here. So, opening statements. So, I guess we're going to be giving... maybe I'll give an opening statement. I don't know. We will start with whomever is able. Well, that's not really fair because I know the answers to these. I just want to know if you know the answers to these. We were going to use trivia to figure out who was going to go first, but now I just want to know if you know the answer to this. So I want to know if you're able to answer a very obscure trivia question. You will be given 30 seconds to answer. Good luck. The question is, which U.S. president previously served twice as an executioner? Good luck.
As an executioner. I do not know. Presumably somebody from either the 18th or early 19th century.
Executioner. So you no answer?
Warren Harding. I have no answer.
No, it was Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland.
Yeah, Grover Cleveland. And so, okay, so I did anticipate that you may not know the answer to that, and so I have a backup question, which is, and you have to get the closest answer, and then you win. Good luck. What year did the Sultana sink? What year did the Sultana sink? The year of the sinking of the Sultana. Good luck.
What's the Sultana?
It's a boat. You could literally just say a number.
You're losing audio now.
Oh, good. You could just say a number, Sam.
1953.
Okay, well, that is the closest guess that anyone has given, so you win. It's actually 1865.
All right, sounds good.
So you were not even remotely close, but that's okay. All right, good. So because we have lost TJ, this debate is largely pointless, but you're already live, and so I'm going to milk this for everything it's worth. So you will be giving an opening statement now. You will have 4 minutes to give your statement. You will be arguing against mortgage interest deductions. So whenever you are ready, go.
Needless to say, this is not a topic that interests most people, or that any libertarians, or virtually anybody else for that matter, spend any amount of time focusing on at all. However, it does actually have some important repercussions and is worthy of discussion, especially by libertarians who love to debate about things endlessly for no reason anyway. This actually does have an impact on the world and deserves our attention. As Spike said in the opening statement that I will be arguing for, or at least the statement of my position, the mortgage interest deduction is an act of social engineering by government, ineffective at that, but that is the effort nonetheless, and it also distorts markets, raises the price of housing, is deeply regressive in how it affects the poor, because everything in American society does. It has racist implications to it, and a lot more bad stuff. So we'll kind of take those one by one. First of all, the social engineering aspect. This is no conspiracy theory. This is pretty openly what the point of the mortgage interest deduction was in the first place, was kind of post-war. The government wanted to encourage home ownership because they thought that nuclear family units with, one mother, one father, 2.5 kids, and a single family suburban home was the most effective and structured and positive way for society to be organized. So they wanted to encourage that lifestyle by making it, in theory, easier for people to own homes and make it cheaper for them to do so that more people could do it and that they could all be nice little government-approved families. Now, on that measure, as if that's not disturbing enough from a libertarian perspective that government is encouraging a particular lifestyle and discouraging others, which that should be, you should not like that. It did not work anyway. If you look at home ownership rates of the United States, where we do have a mortgage interest deduction, compared to somewhere like Canada or the UK or much of other Western Europe, the home ownerships are virtually identical, and being able to deduct our mortgage interest does not actually encourage home ownership here any more than it does there not having it. So even if you believe that home ownership is good and you have no problem with government socially engineering the way that we should all live our lives, it was not effective in that regard anyway. Now, the economics of it is that it actually raises the price of housing for everybody, because if you are going to buy a house and you know that you are going to be able to deduct the cost of the interest that you are paying on your mortgage loan from your taxable income, you are going to spend more on a house than you would otherwise, because the cost is artificially lowered by government picking a winner and loser and picking what you should be doing with your life. And so they are encouraging a particular kind of behavior, which makes it cheaper to engage in that behavior. However, because people are more willing to pay a higher price because they know that they'll get that deduction cut off later, that raises the price of housing for everybody, and that includes for renters as well. So it raises the price of rent, it raises the price of housing, it raises the price of land, and it generally distorts the market because of a specific action that government has undertaken. It is also extremely regressive in its effect. It benefits almost exclusively the highest income earners in the United States, because that's who owns homes, and you're able to deduct up to $1 million off of it. I think that has recently been cut by the Trump administration, one of the very, very few good things that he has actually done. However, it still exists, and it benefits the highest income earners at the expense of the poor. And it's not just a thing of, I hear this argument from a lot of ANCAP-leaning libertarians often of, well, oh, taxation is theft, so anytime we can reduce the amount of theft, that's good. And that's not really how it works when you look at it with any more than the most simplistic view. Because if you're artificially lowering taxes for one group of people, that's essentially raising them for everybody else if if spending is held constant, which it is going to be. Just because they're earning less tax income does not mean the government is going to spend less. They're still spending the same amount regardless.
10 seconds.
You can interject if you want. I could probably go on for a long time, but let's have some back and forth.
Okay, cool. So because, again, you are now the only participant, a lot of how this was going to be structured makes little to no sense. So I'm going to be changing it, but I'm still having to go by how I have it structured. So I guess this is where I was going to have moderator questions. I guess this is going to be more back and forth discussion / debate as opposed to me asking you a question and then asking someone else a question. I am Spike Cohen, and I am the moderator, and these are my questions. I will be asking a series of questions that are either critical of your argument or examine it further, and you have as long as you want to. I mean, at this point, we're just talking between the two of us. So this was my original question. I was originally going to ask you a question that is critical to your argument. I was going to ask TJ one that was critical to his. It doesn't really make sense for me to ask the one that's critical to TJ's because it's basically what you just said. So here's my question for you that's critical to your argument. Sam, neither of us, I don't think, want any kind of government distortion of the market. But we also don't live in a vacuum, or we don't live in a situation where we can, perfectly pick and choose what kind of things happen within government, whether it's deductions or additional taxes or reductions in taxes. We kind of are often fighting for what we can get. Considering the fact that we aren't able to just eliminate all taxation and transition to some kind of voluntary payment system or have a perfectly fair tax or regulatory system, isn't it good to fight for any kind of tax deduction that anyone can get, with the idea that we just always keep pushing for fewer and fewer taxes and more deductions and just getting them whenever we can? And if not, why not?
That's a very oversimplified view that doesn't take into account what libertarianism is actually fighting for, because it's not as simplistic as just taxes are bad, less taxes are good. When tax subsidy, it is a subsidy. If libertarians don't like subsidies, and some people are dumb and don't think that tax subsidies count as subsidies, but I assure you that they do. When the government subsidizes something, that does distort the market and encourages specific kinds of behavior or specific industries at the expense of others. It is government picking winners and losers and interjecting itself into the market and preventing it from working as efficiently as it should. And that really should be a greater libertarian priority than just taxes are bad, is ensuring that the market can operate as it's supposed to, because we know that we ought to all respect as libertarians that the market is a very efficient, effective way of achieving the best outcomes for society. But when government interjects itself into those markets and interferes with their natural course and their ability to function, we get worse outcomes for people. And really, that should be what we're focused on, is getting the best outcomes for people.
Okay, fair enough. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, would our time not be better spent on just pushing for? So, for example, well, actually, I'm going to be addressing this in another question, so we can go back to that. You had mentioned that the original purpose, and I didn't, because I wasn't actually going to be debating this, I didn't, vent any of this kind of stuff. But you had said that the original purpose of the mortgage interest deduction was to try to encourage nuclear families to buy single-family homes in the post-war setting, and with the whole baby boom going on and everything else, and that that was a type of social engineering. And assuming that that's true, you don't have to be a nuclear family or be purchasing a single-family home to get a mortgage or to purchase a home. You could, if you're a single non-binary person who chooses to get a condo or a flat somewhere, you could also get a mortgage for that. Or if you wanted to, whatever, if you want to be a polyamorous commune and purchase a tract of land out to have your mutual aid society in or whatever, you could do that as well. In light of that, is this still social engineering, and if so, why?
it's still an encouraging. I mean, the things that you said are true. Yeah, those people could get a mortgage, but obviously the vast, like 95+% majority of people are getting a mortgage to get a house for their single family, which is fine. And I want to do that someday when I'm older too, and that's fine. That's a perfectly valid decision that anybody can make. I don't have a problem against single family housing as a concept, or if anybody wants to buy them. I have a problem with government encouraging one specific kind of behavior over others, and that behavior is home ownership and owning a single family home, which is what the mortgage interest deduction was intended for in the first place, even though, like I said, it wasn't very effective at that anyway.
Okay. But even still, okay, so yes, the fact is that in a heteronormative, mostly, well, you didn't even mention race, but in a society where the vast majority of people are heterosexual, cis-het people that are looking to create a family, and that, like you even said, it's something you want to do, is the fact that the majority of people, is that not sustainable? How is that different from saying that, for example, we shouldn't have an earned income tax credit, or a lower income tax, because the majority of people that are going to be using it are cis-het heterosexual people who want to create a family?
Basically, we shouldn't have many kinds of deductions at all. But, like, most deductions are a bad thing that are social engineering and distort markets. Like, if we are to have taxes, especially like an income tax, it should be pretty much flat across the board, not encouraging or discouraging any particular kind of behavior, or subsidizing or punishing any particular industry.
Okay. This, and you can tell me where I'm wrong. I know where you're going to tell me where I'm wrong. But not in application, but in philosophy, this feels, in my mind, partially how you've presented it, as being similar to the libertarian pro immigration control argument, in that it argues for additional government intrusion into something, in this case a tax, because of other infringements that are already in place, such as zoning or other taxes and regulations that are in place that harm the poor, or try to create a middle class at the expense of the poor. Again, wouldn't it be better just to push for deregulation in the housing market that would allow for lower income earners to purchase homes, so that this wouldn't be as distortive and favoring of higher income earners, and being less regressive?
I mean, that's fine, and yeah, we should absolutely be calling for dezoning, or at least upzoning anyway, but that's not really relevant to my position on this issue. It's that it is a market distortive tax, not just, like, the zoning thing really doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm not really sure where you got that from. But again, if you look at the economics of it, if you are incentivizing and subsidizing the affordability of housing by allowing people, like, so if you go and do something else, if you go skydiving every week, go on skydiving trips every week, the government doesn't subsidize that behavior, but it does subsidize home ownership, and that's just a particular behavior or choice that some people make, and government subsidizes it by making the price artificially cheaper and not allowing the supply and demand, the market system to function properly. It raises the price of housing because government is artificially lowering the cost of the interest on the mortgage loans. And another reason that that's a big problem economically is if the subsidy isn't enough and interfering in the market, is that it encourages very financially risky behavior, because it encourages people to take out as large of a loan as they can and basically put down as little as they can. Right. There's no, we should, if anything, if government was to subsidize a particular kind of behavior or choice, which it should not do, but if it was going to, it should be done in a way to subsidize putting the maximum amount down that people will be willing to do, so that they'll be less likely to default on their loans and cause a housing crash like we saw in 2008. But what the mortgage interest deduction does is it encouraged people to take out a larger mortgage loan, because they know that they won't have to pay the interest on that, or the interest payment will be subsidized on it anyway.
Right. Okay. So your argument is essentially across the board that there shouldn't be these different carve-outs for certain type of behaviors, that it should essentially just be whatever the tax is should be kind of a flat across the board thing, and that it shouldn't be trying to pick winners and losers in terms of what what kind of economic behaviors or actions are being taken, incentivizing them or de-incentivizing them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very standard libertarian point of view, that government should not be in the business of encouraging or discouraging particular behaviors, so as long as they don't harm anybody else.
Okay, fair enough. So in the interest of, for two reasons. First of all, in the interest that not come, because the person that was prepared to debate this, their computer bricked, and because I didn't really have time to really sink into debating what I don't necessarily disagree with, and haven't had time to really vet that out. In the interest of that, I think I'm going to agree with you to the extent that the government shouldn't be distorting things, and if we are able to reschedule this debate, then we can do that. I'm going to let you do your... Well, actually, no. So we have some... well, I'll let you do your closing remarks, because the rest of the follower questions and the thing I want to talk to you about doesn't have anything to do with this. I'll let you give your closing remarks. You have...
I mean, are there any audience questions about this issue so far?
Not about this so far. No, I do have some follower questions.
Is anybody watching at all?
Oh, yeah. No, we have people watching, and I definitely have some follower questions, but none of them are about this. So if you want, that's why I was saying, if you want to just give your closing remarks on this, and then we'll get to the other stuff, and we can do that. So whenever you are ready, you can give your closing statement.
I mean, yeah, there are a few more things to mention of why we should oppose the mortgage interest deduction anyway. I mean, I've gone through how it is social engineering, how it was ineffective social engineering. If you do happen to agree with that the purpose was good, it didn't work anyway. It raises the price for everybody else. It raises rent costs, which is most people's largest expense, so you're just taking money right out of people's wallets. Because it subsidizes one behavior, it inherently punishes others, because the spending of government will remain the same, and since they're losing all of this tax revenue from a particular group of people, they're just getting it from either others or adding it onto the debt, which is just taxing future generations. It is extremely regressive, because this is a particular benefit that only people in the higher income brackets are able to take advantage of, while the renting class does not get to have this advantage. They must pay the full price for their housing, which, as I said earlier, is more expensive because of this. It is also... Like I said, this is going to sound hysterical, because everybody thinks that, bringing race into anything is hysterical, but it is just a factual reality in America that racism infects almost every sector of society, and that deeply includes home ownership. If you look at home ownership rates between white or maybe Asian families and black or Latino families, there's a huge disparity in that, and you could do a 12-part lecture series on why that is. A lot of it has to do with, Jim Crow laws and redlining and all things like that. But the fact of the matter is that black homeownership is tremendously lower. So you could pretty much almost say that this is just a subsidy for white people, because that's how homeownership cuts across society. It is overwhelmingly white people and maybe Asian people who own homes, not black people or Latino people. So that's also a reason that we should oppose it. And like I said, it encourages very bad fiscal behavior that threatens the entire economy. We saw this in the 2008 housing bubble crash that was the greatest recession seen since the Great Depression. And this encourages that to happen again by, incentivizing people to take out a larger loan than they can really afford, because the cost of it is artificially lowered by a government subsidy. It discourages people from doing the responsible thing and saving up a larger down payment. You could put $5,000 down and get a $400,000 house and have a mortgage payment, and you'll be okay with that, because the interest on it I can deduct from my taxable income, so why shouldn't I do that? Then when the payment is so high, if you lose your job or something like that, or anything else unexpected happens, you can't make that payment, that gives you significant chance to default on that loan. And if people do that en masse, that creates, a very large problem for the American economy, as we saw. Another bad thing about it is, this is, I guess, more related to your zoning issue, kind of, that you brought up. It's that, just that, again, I have no problem with single-family home ownership, and I plan to be one, so I don't want to, I don't want to appear hypocritical on this or anything, but just still, government encouraging single-family ownership is not good. It should just, if you want to do it on a free marketplace with all costs that would be naturally occurring in a free marketplace, that's fine. But when you're encouraging single-family ownership, that encourages, the kind of thing that leads to urban sprawl, which creates worse commuter times and more carbon pollution and less efficient use of land and more expensive rents and all of the rest of it. And that's just... there's a huge ripple effect from this issue that does not sound very interesting or exciting or sexy, but it really does have quite an impact on society. And there are numerous reasons that libertarians should oppose it. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people you could get the argument from better than me. I didn't prepare at all for this. And I'm just, kind of shooting from the hip and probably don't sound very well articulated right now. But
you had 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I didn't prepare for it.
Well, next time you should. You had 2 weeks. I mean, at least your computer works. So for that reason, if for no other reason. So, all right, I guess the only thing I would add, I'm not even sure this is a rebuttal, and I'm not sure that you would even disagree with this. If you were going to advocate for getting rid of the mortgage interest deduction, I would recommend coupling it with what tax reduction or deduction or whatever you would replace it with, being something that's more across the board, and I guess, for lack of a better word, egalitarian, as opposed to just telling a bunch of homeowners you don't get to have your deduction anymore. Instead, saying everyone would be able to get either this reduction or deduction or credit or whatever.
I mean, in a normative utopian sense, I don't even support an income tax at all. I think it should be abolished in its entirety in a very long run kind of a sense. But in the short run, there should not be any, particular behavior that government is encouraging or discouraging, however wide it cuts across society. Whether it's something that 90% of people do, they still should not be encouraging or discouraging that particular behavior, because it still has all of the negative, market impacting effects that I've mentioned here and everything. So I don't want to replace one bad policy with another bad policy that just happens to help more people than it currently does. We just shouldn't have things like this, special cutouts, special carve-outs that help particular industries and hurt other particular industries, encourage specific behaviors and discourage others and distort the markets in the process. We just should not have anything like that. If we are going to, want to lower people's taxes, which I do, we should be lowering taxes after we lower spending, because lowering taxes without lowering spending is just increasing taxes on future generations.
Okay, fair enough. So, okay, cool. So, guys, you now get to decide who you thought won this debate. Do you think that Sam won this debate? Do you think that TJ, whose computer bricked very early, do you think he won this debate by not being here? Or do you think Housey won? Maybe you thought Housey won. I don't know. So now that we've moved on, before we go to the follower questions, as you may or may not know, Sam and my lovely followers, we had a very interesting thing happen earlier today where your very own Spike Cohen was on a local news program, and because we have the time for it, I'm going to go ahead and show that now, and I want to get your thoughts on this program, Sam. So I'm going to put this on right
if
now.
all goes well, this man could be on the ballot in November.
Yeah,
can you hear that?
Dick Papadonis
No.
is live in the
All right,
studio
good.
to show
Hold on.
us
I can see it, but I can't hear it.
Yeah, no, I know.
using to
All
deliver
right.
his message.
Source.
They tell you they're riding ponies into a zombie-powered future, but an
Okay, all right. So we're going to start that over again. This is my thing, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this now.
If all goes well, this man could be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, ABC 15's Nick Papadonis is live in the studio to show us
I still can't
the
hear it.
unconventional
You can't hear
strategy
it?
he's using to deliver his message.
They tell you they're riding ponies into a zombie-powered future, but an interview in Spike Cohen's living room has given him
No,
a
nothing
serious
at all. I
politi-
turned the volume up loud and still nothing.
Gosh, all right. Why can you not hear that?
If all
on,
goes
hold
well,
on.
this man could be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, ABC 15's Nick Papadonis is live in the studio to
Can
show
you hear
us
it now?
the unconventional strategy he's using to deliver his message.
They tell you they're riding ponies into a
about now?
zombie-powered future, but an interview in Spike Cohen's living room has given him a serious political platform.
Are you
So you're
recording?
not-
You're not hearing this.
No.
Well, that sucks. All right. Doug Kroll says Housey won the debate, but Spike won our hearts. So that's one for Housey. But we'll see who else gets it. So I'm going to go through some of these other questions that came in from followers. Number one, of course, whenever I have any question, follower question session, this comes in. Sam, Waffle House or IHOP?
I live in the Pacific Northwest and have never been to a Waffle House.
So that's the wrong answer. The answer is Waffle House.
I'll give it to Waffle House anyway, though, because Waffle House seems like it has more kind of unique cultural value than IHOP. Like,
Okay,
Waffle
well then-
House has, like, a distinct regional identity to it and kind of a culture about it. IHOP's literally just, like, a chain restaurant. So I'll give it to Waffle House anyway.
Okay, good. That's the right answer. And then here was one that a follower asked. Are you voting for Spike for vice president, and why not? Ouch.
Absolutely not, no.
Even if I get the
Well,
nomination?
you come with as a package with Vermin, don't you?
I mean, it just, I don't know how this is being asked. They just said, are you voting for Spike as vice president? So I guess you can take that however you want to.
I mean, if it's a literal question, I'm not probably going to be there to vote anyway, so it would just have to be a kind of in-spirit thing. And who else is even running for vice president? You're the only candidate I know of.
So it was me and John Phillips Jr. and Jeff Wood.
They dropped out, right?
Yeah, John Phillips and Kim Ruff dropped out, and Kim endorsed me, and John didn't endorse anyone because he's an LNC member and didn't want to be seen as showing favoritism. So it's me and Jeff Wood.
I don't know who he is. Is he like a Mises guy, or is he like a Sarwark kind of guy?
He currently has the nomination from the Socialist Caucus and the Audacious Caucus.
No, thank you.
So then you support me.
Among those choices, I support you, yeah.
So would you vote for me in the general if I get the nomination?
Like the general election against the Democrats and Republicans?
Yes.
Well, again, are you a package with Vermin? Because I'm not
just-
voting for Vermin.
So you wouldn't vote for Vermin over Donald Trump and, say, Joe Biden?
No.
Okay, so assuming you're someone you would want as the president pick gets the
Amash.
nomination, and I get the VP pick, would you vote for me?
I would, this isn't the answer that you want to hear, and it's not fun for your audience, but I would honestly hope that in the case that we actually got Justin Amash to run for president and he won our nomination, which he obviously would, I would hope that you would have the decency to step aside and have him kind of pick somebody that he wants as his running mate, because I think that you know that you would harm the ticket by not having any experience and being a goofball. You're a fun podcast host, but you are not qualified to be a vice presidential candidate, especially next to somebody like Justin Amash.
You heard it here, folks. That is a full-on support for the Vermin Spike 2020 ticket from none other than Sam Coppinger of Libertarian Memes for Neoliberal Teens. So the next follower question was bound to be a real hootenanny, but now TJ's not here. But I'll go ahead and get your thoughts on it, and then I guess we can, because I think that was Stephen Messina. You have a new fan with Stephen Messina, who says that you effing rule, and that
Thank you.
have clearly not been to a Waffle House. So let's see here. So here's the last question, which I'm just going to let you answer it because, again, this was going to be a big debate question, but now it's not because it's just you. What are your thoughts on the Mises Caucus?
Negative. Like, I feel like most of the people who are watching probably already know me and probably already know my opinions of the... Is it Mises or is it Mises? Is it Mises?
So my understanding is that it's Mises.
I don't like that. That sounds worse.
Okay.
But
well, that's how his name was said. His name was Ludwig von Mises. So you hate it more because it's Mises and not Mises?
It's less satisfying. I don't like the sound of Mises. I like Mises better, but okay, we'll say Mises. I do not like the Mises Caucus, even though on actual policy, I probably agree with them at least 90%, but there's a lot more to politics than just sheer policy positions, and I have never really gotten a clear answer from anybody in the Mises Caucus, even the ones who I think are the less malicious members of it, of what exactly its purpose is supposed to be, because the actual policy positions of it are already shared by the Libertarian Party itself. It's already a very, very radical capitalist party, a very, radical libertarian party, and it shares virtually the exact same platform as the caucus does, so that leaves the only differentiating factor being their kind of branding and strategy, which is very clearly just to appeal to disaffected paleo-conservatives in the alt-right. That's just literally the only logical purpose of what it is for. That's not, a slander. It's logically the only thing that it is there to accomplish, because anything else that it could be distinguished by is already shared by the party itself. That is the only differentiating factor between the Libertarian Party and the Mises Caucus, is that the Mises Caucus uses branding that is appealing to the alt-right.
So then the fact that it's pronounced Mises doesn't inspire you to say that you love Mises to pieces?
No, it doesn't.
That's sad, Sam.
I have heard that actual Mises himself is not nearly as bad as the caucus is, and that the caucus really, has done him dirty by dragging his name through the mud, but the caucus and the Institute combined have really disgraced his legacy, but...
Sam, I know you're young, but the thing is, you're going to learn soon that you have to find joy in things, and I think you missed out on a real opportunity with rhyming there. I'm not going to lie. I just think you really
Politics isn't supposed to be about fun.
Well, I disagree, and I think that's why I'm currently the front runner, because that's...
Yeah, because you are the front runner, because all of the other white boys in the Libertarian Party who don't actually care about politics and aren't affected by any kind of a policy one way or another don't have anything to lose by just voting for who they think is fun rather than who will actually make an impact on their lives. Kids in cages on the border don't have that luxury.
Okay, so now we're actually having a debate, because I haven't just been going and having fun with white boys, although that is largely what these conventions are about. But I will say that, I've been going and doing tours in marginalized communities where I don't do the fun shtick and talk with them about the things that are affecting them, and it's been very well received. So, I go in with a humorous attitude about it, but I don't go in and talk about cheesy bread or badgers or anything like that. And it's been very well received because I'm going there and demonstrating an empathy that no other party or candidate has shown in their community, that the other ones are afraid to go there. So I would dispute that. I think that...
Okay, well, that part's great, but why do you do the badgers and cheesy bread the rest of the time? Because that just undermines everything that you're doing by reaching out to these marginalized communities, because when you do the badgers and cheesy bread, that just ensures that you won't actually accomplish any of the changes that you're asking these people, that they want. They can tell you what you want, you can learn what they want, you can, sit down with them and have a long discussion about what would help them, but you're not going to accomplish any of that if you're talking about badgers and cheesy bread to the general public.
But you say that, and yet I'm getting more engagement than any other candidate running. And
That doesn't.
in the wake of
among the Libertarian
in the wake
candidates,
of
that doesn't
in the wake
matter.
of
It's
John
all
Phillips dropping
insignificant.
out, no one else stepped in because apparently I've become the consensus candidate, and I will say I am as shocked as anyone else that I've become the consensus candidate apparently, but I have. And to say simultaneously, oh, well, it's just because people are enjoying that, and also, well, it's not going to get any results, it's gotten results. So if I'm able to, for the people that...
Hasn't.
You say it hasn't, but as
any results within the Libertarian Party primary system are absolutely meaninglessly insignificant. It's even among libertarians, there's maybe like 1% participating in any way, formal or informal, in this process, and that's among libertarians who themselves are a statistically insignificant portion of the general public. What happens within the Libertarian Party has literally no impact or representation or significance whatsoever of the general public in
But so then in that
attitudes
case, why...
or results among candidates or policy positions or anything. Nothing that libertarians do within the party has any relevance to the general public.
Within the party in and of itself, no. But assuming if I got the nomination, then I would actually have an opportunity to reach out to people. And if you're talking about, if your response to that, because you made some valid points there, but if your response is that we need to nominate someone who is currently in trouble being able to possibly get reelected in his own home district, how is that somehow a substantive positive change of someone who in your, I guess I assume in your mind, is someone that's going to be making this amazing positive change? If the fact that Justin Amash would not suck up to Trump is enough for him to not be able to possibly get reelected in his own district, what would make you think that he would be any more able to affect positive change on a cultural or societal level than someone like a Vermin Supreme, who already is a household name among many people?
For one, I could guarantee you that more people know Justin Amash than Vermin Supreme.
That's actually factually incorrect. I mean, there's multiple Google trend lines and everything. It's not even close, actually. I mean, the recognition of between Justin Amash and Vermin Supreme within political circles, there's probably a slight number that know him better. Within general societal circles, it's not even close. I mean, we've done.
My parents know who Amash is. They do not know who Vermin Supreme is.
Your parents
Nobody
are not a
over 30 knows who Vermin Supreme is, and nobody under 30 votes.
Well, you're saying nobody under 30 votes, and that's certainly not true. But everyone
Obviously,
under 30 knows
it's an exaggeration, but the proportion of people under 30 who vote is dramatically lower than the proportion of people over 30 who vote. Is that more statistically acceptable for you?
It is, but how much of that is because the options that they're being given are garbage to them, and that they see this innately as a joke?
And that's the same kind of people who support somebody like Vermin Supreme as the people who don't care.
If they don't care, why is he the front runner for the Libertarian Party?
They don't have anything to lose. They don't stand they're not engaged, and they just think it's funny. They don't know anything about politics. They probably can't even name all three branches of government, and this is just like, well, it's fun.
It's one or the other. Either the people who like Vermin Supreme are completely unengaged and have nothing to do with it, or the people who support Vermin Supreme are the hyper-engaged who are involved in the Libertarian Party at a level that the vast majority of libertarians aren't. Which is it? Is it that he's the hyper-engaged like him or the unengaged like him?
The people who are engaged in the Libertarian Party are not engaged in national politics generally. There's a very small crossover there. The Libertarian Party is mostly a social club of people who do not feel that they belong in either party. And that even includes me, even though everybody thinks that I'm an establishment goon. Obviously, there's a reason that I'm in with this party and not the other two, and that's because I do not feel that I belong in either of them. And that's who libertarians are, is people who don't feel that they belong. And the proportion of people in the Libertarian Party who even engage in national politics outside of the Libertarian Party is not very significant. So you could be hyper engaged in the party and still disengaged from national politics. Most of your supporters right now probably won't even vote.
That's patently false. But the people that are making up the Libertarian Party are hyper engaged. They are largely ineffective because the party is so small. But they represent a group of people that skew younger and skew more cerebral and skew more, disaffected disaffected and disengaged with the overall system because they see it as a joke. There is a whole demographic of people that could get us to 5% or even 10% based just on people who innately know that the system is a joke and don't participate in it because of that, and have no real idea that there's anything like a libertarian party that has any viable chance. If you give them something if you give something that speaks to them on an innate level, like, for example, this whole thing is a joke, so we're going to give you the biggest clown, and we'll also, now that we've got your attention, we're going to talk to you about what libertarianism is. That has a much better chance than saying, here is yet another retired Republican who has no shot, and we all know it, and he's going to take one last tilt at the old windmill before retiring because he no longer represents what Republicans currently believe, and so he's going to use our party as a step down to retirement. And why would that be? If you're surrendering that we're going to be ineffectual and not be able to make any real change, then why not go for a Hail Mary drastic?
I'm not surrendering that. You were the one surrendering that. I am not surrendering that. That's why I want to run qualified, credible candidates who actually could, if they were elected, do the job. When people, the general public, when they know that somebody is not qualified to do the job, they're not going to vote for them to do that job. This group of disaffected 21-year-olds who you just want to vote because you're fun, or because, politics is a joke, that's not going to ever win an election. Literally never. Those people are not going to vote anyway. They don't vote now. They're not going to vote anyway. They're not significant. We shouldn't even be concerned about them. I'm not interested in even trying to appeal to those kinds of people.
You're talking about 46% of voters. You of all people who are saying that, there's all this intrusion in the market by government that is marginalizing people for the benefit of a dwindling group of privileged people, are saying that we should completely ignore the 46% of eligible voters, not to mention a large percentage of the 54% who do vote, who are just voting because they're not even aware that there's a viable alternative, that we should just completely ignore them in favor of doing the strategy that for the last almost 50 years has not gotten a single statewide or federal victory for the Libertarian Party, which is, we're going to find
the Libertarian Party has
some
never
Republican
followed the kind of strategy that I want to pursue.
We're going to find
never has it engaged in that. If you listen to David Nolan's statements
that's going to do the exact same thing that every other one has done before that. How is Justin Amash going to be a massive departure from a Gary Johnson? In what way is yet another liberty-leaning Republican going to be any different?
For one, I reject the notion that Gary Johnson was a failure. He was absolutely blew out of the water our previous vote totals. He was, by an immense margin, the most successful candidate in Libertarian history.
Which is sad.
But Justin Amash can piggyback on that because I love Gary, but we all know that he was goofy and he didn't speak well and he came across as uninformed, whether that was true or not. I think he's a very smart person, but he is very, very poor at communicating that, whereas Justin Amash is not. He's extremely well-spoken. He doesn't act goofy. Nobody could say that he's unqualified, unknowledgeable, non-credible. He is an extremely well-versed intellectual politician who everybody knows.
They're not going to say anything about him because they have no idea who he is and they're never going to hear about him. How would a Gary Johnson... So you just contradicted yourself. You said that we needed serious candidates, and the proof of that is Gary Johnson, who had blew out, as you said, previous vote records, but he blew it out being, as you called him, a goofy person who didn't speak well. So which is it? We need a goofy person who doesn't speak...
Both. He was serious in that he had elected experience. He was a two-term governor, as was Weld, and he had credible elected experience. His personality was unfortunately a weakness. He's a great person. Honestly, that he is such a great person is part of why he was not more successful, because you have to be kind of a jerk to succeed in politics. But you can't say you can't have it both ways, because it literally is both ways. He was a serious candidate in that he had elected experience, but he was not as serious as he could have been because he isn't a good speaker and acts like a goofball.
He got elected as a goofball. He got elected as a pot-heady type goofball. So, I mean, that's sort of... I mean, we can do this all day long, and I'm okay with agreeing to disagree with you, but I lovingly encourage you, Sam, to examine some of your precepts here in terms of what is considered respectable. I don't think respectable is this late 20th century formal business aesthetic combined with a sober August anchorman's tone. If it was, then we wouldn't have a bright orange president who speaks at a low growl and gold plates everything.
Let's address that. If you are in one of the two major parties, you can afford to deviate from that kind of norm. You can, AOC is nothing like that. She's very loud and outspoken and posts memes on the internet, and she has all this grassroots support, and she, claps back at people on Twitter all the time, and she could do that. Or Trump, I don't need to even say anything about Trump. They are both in the two major parties. They already have a base of 40 million supporters, most of whom are going to vote for literally anybody of their party who is on the ballot. We do not have that luxury. The only way that we can appeal to people is by showing them that we are actually a credible third option. And so that's literally the most important possible thing that we can do, is show that we are a valid, credible, qualified, legitimate third option. That is the absolute most important thing that the party could possibly do, is portray us as a valid, credible option. And that means a comical level of seriousness and credibility and well-spokenness. And it's not like when a Republican does something, funny and silly, that's like, oh, well, that's fun because that's not what you expect from them. But that is what people expect from us. And it's not fun to see people that you think are goofy idiots acting like goofy idiots. It's fun to see people who are normally well-spoken and serious and, all put together and everything. It's fun to see those people act like goofy idiots. When it's just the goofy idiot party, nobody's impressed by us acting like goofy idiots.
No one's impressed by us at all because they don't know we exist. I will leave you with that. I will also say that I think when 3.25% is our blowout, I think after 50 years, at this point, the Republicans as a previous third party was already a dominant party, and I think we can possibly maybe deviate from the script. I will ask you this as your last question. When Vermin and I do get the nomination, what are you going to name your pony?
I'm not even going to answer that. But once again, you say deviate from the script. We have never run the script that I want to run. You keep acting like I want a continuation of the status quo of the Libertarian Party. Literally never before somewhat 2012 and 2016 have they done anything like what I would want us to do.
Okay. We're going to do something radically different that Sam wants, which is to find a retired Republican who can't win their seat back because they went against the Republican orthodoxy. We're going to name your pony Kipper, because when people don't name their pony, we give them names that they otherwise wouldn't want. So, guys, thanks again for tuning in for this episode of the Mortgage Interest Deduction Jam. We are sorry that it didn't actually happen, and we hope that next time we're gonna get TJ a new iPad or something to try to get it to work right. So, Sam, I'm going to give you one last chance to say you're going to vote for me. No, I'm going to give you one last chance to give whatever final thoughts you have on whatever you want to talk about, plug whatever you want for your show, and then we are going to we're going to sign out. Sam, I give you the floor.
Buy merch. Mortgage interest deduction is bad. We need to run credible candidates. That's the gist of what's happened here.
Agree, possibly wrong. Sam, thanks again for tuning in. You're always an absolute pleasure to have on. Stick around. I'm going to talk with you during the intro. Guys, thanks again for tuning in for this absolutely blessed mess of an episode. Actually, it went well. It was really the only problem was that TJ's thing stopped working. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in tonight. And now it's up to you again to decide who won this mortgage interest deduction jam. Was it Housey, the house? Was it Sam Coppinger, who was the only one who spoke? Or was it TJ, who, like Housey, just watched? So guys, thanks again for, be sure to comment with who you thought won, and we will release the winner tomorrow night. Also, be sure to tune in next week, Tuesday night at 8 Eastern for the Muddied Waters of Freedom, where Matt Wright and I will parse through the week's events with the cheer and aplomb of the sweet winter wonder boys that we are. Also, next week, I will not be having an episode of My Fellow Americans. I will be getting ready for my New Hampshire primary tour with the Vermin Spike 2020 campaign. And we will be going live multiple times the following week during the New Hampshire primary, as we will be trolling the entire process on our way to becoming Sam's pick for president and vice president of these United States. Sam, by saying nothing, has acknowledged this. Guys, thanks again for tuning in. We will see you next week, and God bless you.
They say about an eye for an eye in a time when the blind lead the blind. Who am I to deny? I would cry when a loved one dies. I recognize that body outside with the holes in the body that was alive. Now confined to a chalk outline. Find out how, but you never know why. It ain't even make it to the news at 9. It ain't even make it to the news at 9. That's my sister, mother, father, brother, son. That's one of mine. All these years I close my eyes, open up to only find I'm in line. There's a pointless murder happening all the time. Either lose your life or mine. Caught up in them versus I. That ain't how it started, nah. How were we supposed to survive? There's a war going on outside. Who would want to raise a child? Whom the tomb is flashing by. Now you have to say goodbye when you watch them on the news at 5. Don't tell me how, tell me why.
We